Tech Addicts 2025, Episode 2, Mecha Minds. This week it's all about CES 2025 with Acer announcing a new handheld gaming PC. The Mecha Comet is coming. Oukitel are doing modular phones. The Bosch Revol causes some concern. And the Lenovo Legion Tab turns some heads. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. We're back a week after we started, and I'm joined by Ted. Isn't this exciting, Ted? We're back after a week.
Very, very exciting. And the report instantly from North Wales is the sun's out. Blimey.
You're joking.
It's really cold still, but the sun is out, and apparently it's going to warm up in the coming days. There's still frost on the ground, but yeah, it's a real kind of summery, wintry. No, I'll say that again. A sunny, wintry day. What's it like up there? Lagging down with rain, I suppose.
No, actually, I haven't looked out the window today at all because it's so early in the morning. It's 11:30, and there's blue skies. I imagine it's probably quite cold out there, but it seems quite lovely. It's better than last week, that's for sure. Did you get much snow during the week?
We had 2 days of snow. The first day was on Sunday. So when we recorded last week, it was snowy that day, and then there was another day about 3 days later when I woke up and we were snow covered. But it was the cold really this week. The cold was the feature. It was really, really cold. When I was out doing my steps, one evening I was absolutely frozen. My fingers and toes were completely blue. So
just to translate for people who are listening, Ted does steps as in he is learning to be a cheerleader, and he does organised dances outside his caravan.
Yes. So yes, the steps for exercise, simple as that. Except that my stupid watch won't give me my step count anymore. But that's another story for another day. CES was this week, wasn't it? And this is supposed to be our CES 2025 special, isn't it?
It is, yes, and all our stories involve CES 2025. Isn't that brilliant?
Very, very exciting.
It is. And we'll slip into them now because I don't think there's too much else we could do other than asking you folks if you want to get in touch with us. You can. In fact, that's more of a statement as opposed to asking. I apologise. You can email us at Gareth at techaddicts.uk, or you can find us on Twitter at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, MYLES, and then Ted as well. You're on Twitter and MeWe and all that kind of gubbins. If you want to go and find us, you can.
Indeed. Links are all in the show notes.
That's right. Okay, well, we'll start at the top and then work our way down to the bottom, as we normally do.
Very logical.
Relatively frequently. We're going to start off with Acer, because Acer sent me a whole ton of emails about the amount of things that they are announcing at CES. And I have to be honest. I look at Acer and I think they're somewhat considered to be a bit of a budget brand, and I don't say that people discount them whenever they come to buying laptops and bits of hardware, but they're kind of like a benchmark of that's what you should be paying for something. I might be able to do a wee bit better than Acer. And they'll go and look at something else and maybe find Asus or Dell or Lenovo or something like that doing a slightly better piece of hardware for the money. But Acer continually pushes out some really, really interesting looking stuff. I don't know how they manage to continue to research and develop all of these interesting things and tap into what is hot and try to produce something that's just a wee bit less costly than the competition. They are terrific. I really have to say that. But I didn't understand how they continually keep going. They've got money coming in from somewhere. Maybe they've got tons of patents, but they're able just to to always be that rival that you kind of dismiss and move on to something else, but are impressed by their level of technology. Would you agree with that statement? Do you have anything Acer?
I have had, and I think I do have still, but it's something that, particularly with laptops, I have bought a couple of laptops direct from Acer UK, Acer Direct. And in the Swift line, I remember one of the laptops I got was a Swift. What was it? A Swift 5, I think, and it was absolutely lovely. It's fallen out of date now, out of support and end of line, and the battery's probably dead. It's sitting in the garage, I think. But it was an absolutely lovely little laptop, and it wasn't too big, and it was well specified. It was well priced, and if you deal directly with Acer on their website, you do get some really good deals, and it's a bit like Lenovo. If you fish around on Lenovo's website, you can find some really good stuff, but they're not that terribly good at advertising it very broadly. It's like, go in there, fish around, see what you can find. Whereas the big boys will be kind of, plastering it all over the tech media and sending out samples to everyone and all the rest of it. But yes, I agree with you. Long story short, Acer stuff I really like.
Yeah. They are good, but I just don't think they have the credit that they fully deserve. But maybe they don't need to chase for that. They have tried over the years to have a large media presence, but then ended up just going, we'll take a step back and just fill the market full of devices like these. And we'll start with the first thing that really caught my eye.
I didn't realise they were Taiwanese. I assumed that they were from Japan, but they're not. They're from Taiwan. Sorry,
right, okay. No, they're doing their own Steam Deck, not knockoff, but clone or cash-in or version variant. The Nitro Blaze 8 and the Nitro Blaze 11. They both come with Ryzen 8 8040s inside of them with an AMD Radeon 780M graphics. They run Windows 11, have 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage. One has an 8.8 inch WXGA display, and the other one is a 10.95 WXXGA display, and that's 2560 by 1600 for those who don't know. But it does up to 144 hertz refresh rate, and has a bunch of ports and things like that, micro SD card, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3. It looks rather nice. The 8 is going to be about $900, and the 11 is going to be about $1,100. They missed a trick there, but because it's $10.99 and $8.99. But anyway, they will be available in Q2, and they might be kind of interesting to look at a point where Steam is looking to move SteamOS onto these devices. They would be wise to try and get some kind of version of SteamOS available for this in time for their launch in Q2. Ted, what do you think of this?
I just realised I saw the name Nitro, and I realised and remembered that indeed a current laptop, my giant 17-inch laptop, is a Nitro. It's a Nitro 5. So that's another Acer product I've got, which I forget about. And wasn't Acer the gaming brand that did what's the name of their gaming stuff? Because I had a monitor of theirs and another laptop of theirs back in the past. Predator. Is it Predator?
That's it, yes, Predator.
Yeah. And I had one of their laptops as well. And the Nitro is actually a really nice laptop. This Nitro that they've now put on the Blaze devices as a branding, I think might be a good idea, frankly, because that Nitro to me means good power and efficiency and all the rest of it. How does this compare size-wise? I can't remember with the Steam Deck itself. Are both of these bigger, or does it fall between?
Well, the 11-inch will obviously be a lot bigger. It's actually kind of a obscene size. I'm quite interested to see what it looks like, because I'm looking at my 11-inch tablet that's sitting in front of me and thinking, wow, if I was to stick gaming controllers onto each side of that, it would be huge. But yeah, I think the
Right.
Steam Deck's what, 7 or 8 inches.
Oh yeah, here
screen-wise.
it's
I'm probably wrong, but
7.4 it says for Steam Deck. So the Steam Deck is smaller. Both of these are bigger, aren't they?
yeah, they are. That 11 inch is going to be something else. But that could be something that actually captures people. Maybe there is some kind of calling for a larger screen on the Steam Deck, but it's going to be a lot heavier too.
And
The
lots of ports, as you said earlier. You know that USB Cs all over the place and USB As all over the place, and a micro SD card slot. There seems to be tons of stuff. I don't know how that compares with the Steam Deck again, but it just seems to be really well connected, or with good connection facilities.
yeah, yeah. It is. There's tons, and I think they're usually pretty good as well. They might start supporting bits of hardware and things like that, and having cases and docks and things, because that's a whole ecosystem that the Steam Deck has generated, and it seems to be a really happening thing. So I'd like to see Acer doing that too. They're usually pretty good about
Be
that.
nice if they were to make some controllers, however, which were not looking stupid on the 8-inch version, because they're obviously using the 11-inch controllers each side on both devices, and it looks a bit daft, doesn't it? Or is this something else? Is this the next thing on the controller? I'm confused.
Oh no, yes. On this list, we're looking at the next one is the Nitro Mobile Gaming Controller.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't really going to touch on that because it's what you have essentially. You stick your phone, I think, into it, and then you can game on your phone.
Or the Razer Edge.
Yeah, that kind of caper.
Yeah.
And you can put various different sizes into it. But having a dedicated one that is running Windows 11 at a time whenever SteamOS is about to arrive might be a bit contentious, but give people the option. And if that price is right, then this could be cheap enough that people will happily go and start tinkering around with it and shoehorning SteamOS on. If there's variants of SteamOS being made for the likes of Lenovo hardware, as we heard during the week, then they can start tearing it down and putting it in. It's Linux at the end of the day.
Very nice.
Yes. So what's your next one?
Is there anything else on that Acer list? There's one laptop that
particularly, no.
opens completely. Oh yeah, the Swift. There you go. I told you the Swift name was in there, and sure enough, there's a Swift Go, which what caught my eye on this was that it folds flat. I know it doesn't go back on itself, but folding flat's quite nifty because you can put it on a kind of desktop stand and stick it up and use it either way. So I quite like the look of that one.
Yeah.
That's about it, really, isn't it? Yeah.
It has a 3K display on it, which is quite nice. It's OLED, so yeah, that is a bit interesting. But everything else that came out was just sort of a modern refresh of something they already have.
Now, the first one that I caught my eye, which I thought you'll probably be able to talk more about this than I can, but it's a thing called a Mecha Comet. I think it's Mecha Comet, which is a kind of modular Linux handheld thingy. In the show notes, I've linked to a 4-minute video from one of the tech reporters quizzing the guy on the stand about it, which is quite interesting because he demonstrates it quite nicely and shows you what it does. And it's, as I say, it's Linux based. I can't actually get to that page. Can you open that page that I've linked to?
No, I think there's something wrong with Engadget's server this morning, maybe.
Okay.
But I put the Kickstarter in there
Yeah.
so you can have a quick look at that.
On the Kickstarter page, it shows quite clearly that it's not a phone, but there is a 4G module coming along, as the guy on the video explains. So you can actually, you can install whatever you like on it, basically, which we'll come to when we talk about Linux a bit later. But you can tinker with it. It's a kind of developer nerdy geeky delight in which you can just put whatever you like on it, and your creation is the limit of what you can do. At launch, they've got 3 kind of pads that you can put on the bottom half of it or the bottom third of it. One of them's a gaming pad. One of them's a keyboard, which actually looks really nice. It looks much nicer than that dreadful thing that Steve talks about, Steve Litchfield, with the iPhone. It looks bigger than that. It looks like it's actually usable. And there's another one with pogo pins on it, and the guy on the video again describes that those pogo pins are directly linked to the USB, or some of them are to the USB, so you can again anyone can develop a pad on there to pretty much do what they like. It looks like a really, really interesting project, and I think that, as I say, you'll probably be able to plug into more than me on this in terms of understanding what it can do and all the rest of it.
Well, I have a list of the specifications on it, and it comes with a gigabit Ethernet port and two USBs. It's got a 3000 milliamp hour battery. It's got a 5 megapixel camera on the back. It uses an M.2 slot for its PCIe NVMe storage solution. There's eMMC built into it, which is 32 gigabytes. There's a 3.4 inch IPS LED display, which is a capacitive touchscreen as well. It's got wireless 2.4 gigs and 5 gigs. It doesn't actually say what level of Wi-Fi is on there, but it's got Bluetooth 5.0. It's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, and its CPU is a 1.8 gigahertz quad-core ARM Cortex A53 64-bit, and it will be running Mechanics OS, which is a Debian Linux distro for those who like it or have used it. I've never used it myself.
Right.
So it's a really good looking piece of hardware. The demonstration videos that we're seeing make it quite interesting. You can rip the back off it, and there's an Allen key inside of it that you can use to take it all apart, which is really, really encouraging people to play with this and break it down and see what happens. The price looks to be starting on the early bird on Kickstarter at $159,
Woo.
which is really cheap. And once it gets out there, I imagine they'll probably, given the level of coverage that this is getting on various different platforms across the internet, I think this will probably hit its goal quite quickly, and they'll ready up a few other flavors of it to try and entice more people in, sticking in an 8 gigabyte version or whatever, or a slightly faster processor, or more than 32 gigabytes of storage. But I reckon you'll be able to just tear this apart and upgrade it yourself as well. They seem to be aiming that way. It's really cool looking, fun little modular Linux handheld.
It certainly is. I've replaced the link in the show notes to their own actual web page now, which does work. And and if you go to their web page and follow that link, you can see there's all sorts of breakdown of information, which is probably exactly where you were just looking. And there's tons and tons of information about it. I want one of these, even though it might take me a few years to get my head around what it can do for me. It looks lots of fun, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Well, I do reckon you should have a look at your drawers and make sure that you do have space for this to sit there for the next couple of years until you get rid of it. Because it's really a Linux enthusiast type device, and it'll be a while before anyone has some kind of killer software that you're going to need on this. Just for tinkering around. It could turn into a real sort of retro gaming handheld that people are going to want to use, but the other applications of it are going to really be the make or break of this, because it can't just be a gaming device. There's too many of those at the moment for this to be the main focus of it.
But at that price, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because there's enough people that will buy it at that price to get lots and lots of them out there, and get people, even if a percentage of them do end up sitting in drawers, they will have sold lots, I think.
Aye, that'll be true. All right, well, keep it on the gaming flavour. There was one announcement that really struck me as something quite interesting. We'd seen recently that LG had stepped away from Blu-ray players. They're no longer manufacturing physical disc players, which is a step in the wrong direction, if you ask me. But what they are doing is that they are taking a step toward implementing better streaming options for their televisions. And they are going to be expanding with Microsoft into putting Xbox Cloud Gaming onto LG smart TVs this year, which is kind of an interesting idea, and it is a bit of a killer for Xbox, being able to get their cloud streaming service onto screens. And I think there is a real battle for TVs at the moment. If you think about how much effort Google and Amazon are putting into TVs to try and get their platform onto your TV, because everybody has a TV. Not everybody has a laptop. Not everybody has a phone. Not everybody has a tablet. I'd say a good portion of people have TVs, and even if you just bundle this along with it, because it's a piece of software that probably runs quite well on the processor that's inside the TV, and it just delivers streamed content to the TV. It doesn't require that much of a technological hardware upgrade to get it into your living room. And it'll be a killer against Sony, because Sony can't do this. They don't have this opportunity yet. And even if they were to suddenly bring it out this year, I think they'll be too late to the barbecue, because everybody is on board with Xbox Cloud Gaming. It's there already. So yeah, they're announcing that they're doing a partnership with LG, probably to test the waters, and it'll certainly help LG, because this way people who have an Xbox subscription can go out and buy an LG screen and have their Xbox subscription in a different room and be able to connect their controller to it. So if they're not able to use their living room, they can go into the bedroom and pick up where they were on that game in a different bedroom, or even in a hotel room. Imagine this arriving in hotel rooms all over the world.
As long as the hotel's got LG TVs. Mind you, this article seems to say that Samsung TVs have also got this already.
Oh, really?
Well,
right.
It says, having first launched on Samsung TVs back in 2022, Microsoft is bringing this to LG. So maybe that's already a thing with... have you got a Samsung TV?
I don't know. I've got Panasonics.
Right. So perhaps you didn't... if that's true, and then... Because I haven't got a Samsung TV either, so maybe that... Perhaps we do know people that have got Samsung TVs in the group, though, so they can tell us, does your TV have Xbox Cloud on it?
Well, there's also the idea of what exactly is going to happen in the future. Obviously, if we've got Xbox Cloud Gaming, which is Microsoft stamping some software into your TV in your living room or wherever you happen to have it, what's to stop them adding Copilot at a later date, whenever everything's settled and dedicated processors are proved as not entirely essential for Copilot, and then you can have Copilot in every living room? That will be an absolute killer to
Google.
Other AI options out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have a Google TV dongle in some shape or form, which isn't really going to work with this. So it'll be a bit of a pain having a smart TV that you walk up to and say, "Hey, G, I'd like to play Starfield," and it's not able to do that. And one platform is not going to speak to the other, so you're going to have to use Copilot for that in the future.
Yeah.
It's an odd one, and I do. It makes me think about the future of TVs. I do, now I think about it, I do have one Samsung TV that I don't have it anymore. It's down at my stepdaughter's house. But it came with that warning not to discuss your bank details in front of the TV because it's listening. And that was a bit scary. And if they were to start putting smarter stuff like this into it, there's no telling what's going to happen in the future.
I suppose that the strength of this will be rolling out to more than just Samsung and LG, though, won't it? I mean, I've got, for example, in my living room, I've got a Polaroid, believe it or not, Polaroid TV.
Wow.
And my at my dad's house, he's got a big Sony TV, so that's kind of mainstream enough. But my point is that there are lots and lots of brands of TV TVs out there that people might well have that will need Microsoft to do a deal with in the same way. You know, they've got two of them now, and there's probably about 200 more.
Yeah, yeah. And is it really about making it hardwareless, that you're just paying a subscription for gaming,
Hmm.
rather than having to actually go out and buy the hardware that runs it?
TCL. That's who they should do a deal with, TCL, because the TCL TVs are everywhere, particularly in China.
TCL, yeah. I wonder if they have anything like this on it.
Hmm.
Okay, well, we shall investigate furthermore. Okay, now what's next, Ted? What's next?
A couple of phones from a manufacturer who we probably wouldn't consider buying a phone from, but it's Oukitel or Oukitel, which we see littered all over Amazon when we go there, along with Ulefone and Doogie and all the rest of those. But these two phones, these two phones, the WP200 and WP300, do look like they've got a real interesting twist to them. They're ruggedized, both of them. They're going to be really well priced because we haven't got a price on them yet, but we do know they're going to be well priced because Oukitel phones are. Don't believe the 24 gigs of RAM that they're saying is on it. That's absolute bollocks. It's actually 6 gigs of RAM and 18 gigs of RAM nicked from storage in the usual way. But they're telling you it's got 24 gigs of RAM.
They haven't even released it, and already it's warning bells.
Yeah. 1 terabyte of storage on board. But the USP of this device, anyway, is well, firstly that it's super duper ruggedized, so you can knock nails in with it, including the screen, I think. And on the back, though, the USP is that it's got a module in the middle of the camera circle thingy, which you can take out. It's like a little LCD screen, and you can remove it. It's in the shape of a kind of watch face, which is spooky because you can actually take it out and put it into a watch strap and housing, which you can buy from Oukitel as well, or actually it might come with it on the initial sales. But the other thing that you can do is take it out and put it in your ear, because it becomes a Bluetooth earpiece for those that want to make phone
you said
calls.
ear, not rear. Right, okay.
And you've got a built-in earpiece with you the whole time. Now, we know that Nokia a while back did this thing about putting earbuds into one or two of their feature phones built in, but nothing like this. This is actually a fully functioning LCD display that plugs into the back of it when you're not using it. Take it out, put it in your watch to make a watch, and it then talks to the phone and gets all your health stuff going and all the rest of it. Then when you finish doing that, take it out of your watch, put it back into the back of this thing, or when you've got a phone call, put it in your ear, or if you want to listen to some music. I guess listening to music will be a bit tricky because it won't be two of them, it won't be stereo. I think it's more designed to be, a talking device, a communication device. But apart from that, the phone looks really, really solid, with a decent battery and decent storage and a 6.7-inch screen, a Dimensity 7200 chipset, which is not that, that's fairly well up there. As I say, there's no pricing yet, but both of these devices, I think, look as though they're very interesting. And even though we kind of move away from brands like this and don't give them, partly because we know that they're not going to be updated. This is going to be arriving on Android, he says, trying quickly to find. It's got to be 14, hasn't it? I can't find that data here, but I'm sure it will arrive on Android 14 when it's released very soon. I think that so what I was going to say was the updating process will be the problem, as usual. The back end support on these kind of minor Chinese brands are somewhat lacking normally, but maybe that's changing. Perhaps this will change over time. And of course, it will have GMS on it. and it won't be locked out of the whole Google thing. So yeah, a bit of a lump and a ruggedized phone. Take it anywhere. Huge battery, and looks great fun.
I can't for the life of me understand. I'll give you the wristwatch thing. Yes, that is kind of possible. You can take it out, leave your phone at home, and go for a run. Yeah. But the earpiece, I don't understand whenever Bluetooth exists.
Yeah, well, it is. It is Bluetooth. It's a Bluetooth earpiece. That's it.
I know, but actually taking the chunk out of the back and attaching it to the earbud, and then going with that and leaving your phone at home, I don't get that. I really don't see how that is going to benefit anyone.
I don't. No, I think you don't attach it to an earbud. It is an earbud. The whole thing you just put in your ear and it dongles down. So when you want to take a phone call, you just take this thing out the back of the phone and put it in your ear, and that's it. And then when you finish your phone call, you put it back.
Oh, right, okay. So that actual earbuddy bit goes inside the phone.
Yeah. That's as I understand it. But again, there's kind of not very good photos here, and I don't know. You thought that it was a separate thing, did you?
Yeah, I thought you attached the screen to the earbud, because looking at the earbud itself, there looks to be a button at the top that you might click and the screen comes off. I thought it might be some sort of pogo pin affair. Oh, no, well, okay, right, fair enough.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, if you look at the second link I put in the show notes to the WP300, on that picture there, you can see it slightly away from the watch face, and where on that one, you can see that the ear thingy is still in the back of it.
That means it's going to sit up with an ear thing on your wrist, plus the screen, the screen is already about 2 or 3 millimeters, and then the ear jobby, so it's going to sit up about an inch off your wrist.
I don't know.
I have trouble enough bashing regular watches off door frames whenever I'm walking through. This will be wiped out in 2 weeks.
I like the principle though. I thought it looked like an interesting idea, and
yeah,
hats off to an obscure Chinese brand for trying something different. I think.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm quite excited to see what's happening here. Interesting that the WP300 has 12 gigabytes of RAM, whereas the WP200 has 24 gigabytes of RAM. Are they sure it's not 2.4 gigabytes of RAM?
No, it's 6 gig. I looked up the specs somewhere else, and it said it's 6 with 18 extending, like they are doing these days.
Oh, you can download it, right?
No,
okay,
no.
gotcha.
You can just you assign storage to it. But we've discussed this in the group, and even though you assign your storage space for more RAM, it's completely pointless to do it. Apparently, I don't really fully understand the technicalities of that, but the guys that do, they said, yeah, it's just a gimmick, and it's not of any use at all, really.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well. We'll move on to the next one because I kind of want to talk about it because it sounds almost impressive. This is the Bosch Revol, Revol. It's a baby crib. Okay, it's a baby crib that has sensors and cameras and AI that the company says can help monitor vital signs and how your infant is sleeping, the heart and respiratory rates and more and stuff. And the crib can also rock gently if the baby needs help falling asleep, and sends a signal to the parents if blankets come off and things like that, and stuff interferes with the child's breathing and things like that, and it'll reduce cot deaths and that sort of thing. Heart in the right place, I think. Well done, Bosch, for that. However, it took the Electronic Frontier Foundation CEO to step in and point out that this kind of preys on parents' fears and collects excessive amounts of data about babies via the camera, microphone and radar sensors. It does make you think that a smart AI-infused baby cradle, what could go wrong? You know, with hackers and Skynet and all that kind of stuff. Do you want it that close to your child? Are you that lazy that you're not going to be close to your child and you'll be able to just let the crib go as you dander off, do some work or whatever, and not pay attention to the child and just let Mother AI raise your child from this crib? What do you think, Ted? Absolute nonsense, or
The interesting thing that I think I understand about this is that it also turns into a desk. So when you finish doing your kind of childcare activities, or perhaps when the child is too old to be able to use that or doesn't need it, they've got their own bed. This thing kind of, you turn it upside down, I think, by the looks of it, and it becomes a raising children's desk as well. So from the cradle to, I don't know, 12 years old or something, you've also got somewhere for the kid to work on. Which
turn it upside down? Sometimes whenever I'm walking through the house, I'll say, "Hey G, turn on the office lights," and it'll turn on the upstairs light because it misheard me. So you could say, "Hey G, turn on the desk light," and it turns your son's crib upside down, and the baby bonk on the floor.
Yes. It does look a technological marvel, though, doesn't it? I can't imagine anyone buying it. No idea of price or anything. And discouragingly, on the Bosch website, when I click on more for more details, it goes to a blank page and doesn't tell me anything more at all. So.
I'd like to think that they're probably getting rid of this product altogether. I don't think parents need more excuses not to be involved in their child's life.
Yeah.
They do sit behind WhatsApp and Instagram and things like that, raising the child, rocking the crib with their feet. It's been seen to be done. It might be better to actually have the parent hovering and keeping an eye on the child and not relying on AI to do that for you.
Lazy git.
No, absolutely. What's next from you?
The 2025 version of the Lenovo Legion Tab, 459 quid, and you can buy it now. Except, a link in the show notes to an article that says they sold out in 48 hours.
Amazing.
Because it's an 8.8-inch tablet, and there's very few of them out there in terms of Android tablets. But anyway, I went to my Lenovo account on the webpage, and it said 459, and it was offering to let me order, and it didn't say anything about being sold out. So whether that's just been sold out in America, if that's in America. Anyway, the point is, this is a continuation of the line of the Legion Tab, which is kind of almost unique in the Android world because of the size of it. And I know we spoke about the one from last year, but they have beefed up the specs this year. Instead of being a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, it's now a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, so it's brought that right up to date. It's got 165 hertz refresh rate. As I say, it's 459 quid. And it's got all sorts of great stuff going on. It's not, it's more like a Samsung tablet than anything else, really. It's got all the stuff you'd expect. Android 14 out of the box. It's kind of gaming orientated to a degree. You get some Lenovo style gaming software built in, great audio apparently with Dolby support as usual, and it's just a really well specified tablet. It's a nice size. It's challenging what Samsung are doing, really, who kind of hold the corner of the market in Android tablets just now. And it's Lenovo and kind of plugs into all the stuff that Lenovo are doing. I'm assuming that Smart Connect will work with phones as it does with my existing Lenovo tablet, so I can't imagine that it won't. It looks really good, really well priced, and if I didn't have my Tab S8, I think I might well consider buying this, partly because of the size. It's a really nice looking size.
Yeah, yeah, it's really just there's something about 8-inch tablets. Obviously, whenever you sit down and you're using it, it depends on what you're using it for. But yeah, an 8-inch tablet is your best friend whenever you're traveling or on a commute or whatever. It's just perfect,
Indeed.
and it looks good too.
Indeed.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting that they went from, well, we'll pre-order, or no, we'll take orders, and then they sold out, and they just decided, well, we'll just make more.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just have a quick look on my order page again and see if, yeah, they're still offering to send it to me. I mean, they don't say how long it might take, so perhaps you're right. Perhaps they're not actually saying we've sold out. They're saying order it and we'll send it to you in 3 months' time.
Well, hopefully it does mean that other companies will look at this and go, oh, hang on a second, they sold out of 8-inch tablets.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Do some more, a bit like Acer.
Very true, very true. All right, well, we'll move into our little banter section where, Ted, you've done something unthinkable.
Well, I've given in to you at long last, like I did with Plex in the end, and I've installed Linux Mint Cinnamon on my little B-Link box, my little PC. But the first thing to say is I think I might have made a mistake by using that B-Link box because, firstly, it's noisy, and I do notice that when I've been setting things up and getting things going, there's just some lag in it, and I've now hooked it up to my main monitor, so it's on my desk here, and I can switch the monitor from the two HDMI feeds, depending on what I want to do and whether I want to try it. I've got the Bluetooth keyboard and the mouse hooked up, so I can easily switch those. But the bottom line is that there's just so much to learn here. I've been having great fun setting it up, and it's really nice to have an environment that's not Windows. But there's all sorts of stuff that I've got questions and questions and questions. So much so that we decided in February, in a couple of weeks' time, or a few weeks' time, we're going to get Ian Barton on and have a Linux Mint special with him, because he's been using Linux Mint for ages, like yourself, and by then I might have got further under the kind of table with this. But I've got loads of questions. Part of me wants to do away with the B-Links box and put the thing onto my main computer as a separate boot or something, so that I get the benefits of my main computer and not have to put up with this little box. Or I could change completely and put it onto my what's it called?
Geekom.
Geekom, that's right, the Geekom box, which is better specified and doesn't have a fan in it. But lots and lots of questions like, what's a flat pack? When you go to install something, it offers you to do it with a flat pack instead. Lots of reading to do. There's Wine, which allows you to put Windows programs on. I've been looking at what I've got on Windows and seeing what I can replace them with. Like, for example, Skype and Earthand View I've been using on Windows forever, and apparently there's some program called Panda which emulates that to some degree. But I'd rather not really use Wine and use Windows. I'd rather keep it away from that altogether if I can. That the experiment so far is much about that. I understand that Plex works just like Windows. You can just install the client. I did wonder about the Google services, which I do want to use, like Google Drive, locally syncing that. There is a paid-for solution for that, by the looks of it, called InSync. It's £31 for a lifetime subscription to that. A Molto is another one, recording Skype, desktop call recorder. Then there's some packages that get downloaded as TGZ, which is a zip format, which I've never used that before. I've used zip files before, but never that. And again, lots of instructions, lots of information on the Linux Mint forums, which I've been reading as well. There's just such a ton of stuff here that I'm bit by bit I'm trying to replace on the desktop what I'm doing with my Windows, and know how to do with Windows like the back of my hand, and seeing what's missing. So yeah, that's what I've got up to really.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's opening up a much wilder world, wider world, and wilder. That you have to negotiate and navigate your way around.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, and I, much like yourself, rather than you've got a dedicated system. I did the dual boot for a few months before I decided, right, I've got my footing here. I feel that everything that I use on Windows can be achieved through Linux Mint in various software packages, of which they are all free. In Sync, you mentioned about the subscription, and I use that as well, and I've never paid for it.
Oh.
It just works.
Oh, okay. Right.
But I'm not demanding. I only have a couple of different folders, so I think maybe they allow you to do that if you're like sort of a consumer type. But if you're using it professionally, then you're probably expected to pay. It's one of those arrangements.
Okay.
But I can see that, support. I don't have that. But I've never had an issue with it, and I haven't paid.
I know that when you were using Windows, though, you didn't use Google Drive as a synced bunch of folders on your computer, because you told me you just used it online. Whereas I have always taken the Google Drive option to locally sync everything, and so it just I've got a backup copy on my computer at all times, and I think that in sync allows you to do that.
Well, yeah. I do sync to pCloud. That's my number one backup solution in the cloud, and I try not to use Google Drive for really anything anymore, because I'm trying to get away from Google too. Skype is one of the biggest pains in the asses for me, because we podcast, and whenever we had Jason Bradbury on, he laughed at me whenever I said, we're using Skype. And he was like, what? But it's a necessary evil that we use, because it still works. And I have to keep it on there. But we've entertained various other options at the moment. We tried Jitsi last week, and unfortunately Ted had a bit of a problem which wasn't fair to make him have to put up with to carry on. I'll just use Skype until we find a solution that works for both of us.
But if I was using my Linux now, which I wasn't last week, that might work. It may be the answer.
It might work, yeah. It could be. We'll check that out. But obviously, your fan noise and things like that, and running it off, you're still in the testing phase as to whether or not to adopt this. But I do think that in the future there will be a point where you have to ask yourself, do I really need Windows at all anymore? Because that hit me, and dealing with some of the Windows shite that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, you don't have to deal with on Linux, but you do have to deal with another thing. You've identified the whole kerfuffle that is Flatpaks,
right?
App images, the Linux Mint software store and things like that. There's our software manager. There isn't a fully agreed platform for downloading and installing apps on a Linux environment, because different distros use different ways. Some use Snap, some use FlatHub or Flatpak, and then the software manager in Linux Mint is excellent. And you have already discovered that you have to turn off the verified software packages in order to get other bits and pieces, like Chrome. You want it straight out of the box, which. It's obviously Google doesn't develop it for the software manager, so it can't be verified. But it's one way of just helping people and cutting down on the ability to hack, because you are trusting everyone who is a developer on Linux. And it'll be pretty harsh and fast moving whenever someone out there develops an app it's toxic for the Linux environment and maybe tries to steal some information. That'll be cracked down on very, very quickly, and using something like the software manager can give you a better peace of mind. But that can happen in Windows as well. You can go to someone's website to download MP3 Skype recorder is one thing that I remember. what was it? What was the torrent thing that? Oh, uTorrent, wasn't it, years ago? The company who makes uTorrent, or the people who make uTorrent, were harvesting Bitcoin in the back of the software.
Right.
And people didn't realize that for a couple of months. And it just had millions of lines of code around the world that were just lightly harvesting Bitcoin and passing it back to the uTorrent people. Maybe it's not BitTorrent or Bitcoin, but it's something like that. So you don't actually know what's happening, even whenever it comes to Windows software. You can't trust everything that comes along. So you're still in the same environment, but Linux is just that wee bit safer in that you've got the walled garden that is the software manager, and I don't have the verified thing turned off. I survive entirely in the verified software, and I just make things work the way I want them to work. There are a few bits of software that, or well, only one bit of software in Windows World that I have not managed to find an alternative to, and I'm not paying for anything, and that's wonderful.
One of the stumbling blocks for me is Microsoft Publisher, which I use to do my magazine editing, and works really well, and I've been using it for forever, and I know how to use it and all the rest of it, and I thought that was going to be a real big stumbling block, but I did try the other day to use Libra Draw, is it?
Okay, yeah.
Libra Draw seems to come bundled with Mint, along with the other Libra Office stuff. And actually, it looked to me as though, with a bit of work, I could make that work. And it does export high-quality PDFs that I can send to the printer. So that solution might be there. You're working on the podcasting bit. So, between us, maybe some of those things that I was very kind of dubious about, I can, with some work, kind of work out. It'd be interesting to get Ian Barton in on the conversation as well, and see, have a whole show dedicated to nattering about this, won't it?
It will, yeah. And it's something that there's a surprising amount of glee that you can experience whenever you work something out for yourself.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned iSync, or InSync, which is something I found myself, and I'm using it and quite enjoying it. And there's so many little recommendations that you get from people saying, "Oh, try this. That might work for you, and that might work for you."
Yeah.
And then whenever you get something to work, and you because you're forced to, you sit down and you work out if this application actually does exactly what it is you need to do, and then you find out other things that it can do. Because there's no real alternative. You can't just go back to Windows. That's too much of a horrifying experience for anyone to entertain.
I tell you, one annoying thing so far that I found is that you can't get away from a grid on the desktop. You can change the size of the grid, but unlike my Windows desktop, where I can just move something, ad infinitum, wherever I want, put it where I like on the desktop, even on the smallest grid setting on Linux Mint Cinnamon, it's still a grid, and it will still snap your icons to a grid. And I'd really like the free-form, put stuff where I like kind of side of that. But there probably is something out there, as you just said, that will enable that, and I just haven't found it yet.
I think you can turn the snap off on the desktop grid. I'm relatively certain that I've seen that somewhere.
Oh, I couldn't find it, but yeah, you could be right. I just couldn't find it, so I'll keep looking if you think that then.
Yeah, no, Google it. Someone will tell you exactly where it is. It's like the right click menu.
Yeah.
You can tinker around with that to your heart's content. Like if I tend to use moving to and from, like the copy to and the move to. I have a huge amount of things there that are obviously in the sidebar, and they're shortcuts, so you can just move a picture to a particular folder by right-clicking on it, and that's wonderful. And then being able to convert things with your right-click, which is stuff you can do on Windows, but it's a wee bit harder in Windows, I feel. And then there's move to rubbish bin, and then there's a full delete button as well. So if you hit that, it's gone. It skips the rubbish bin, and that's that's something else. That really does make things nice.
Yeah. And this also opens up the whole thing about Chromebooks. With Chromebooks, you can use it in Linux mode, and I've never even considered that. I've never thought about it or really looked about it. But now playing with it, you think, well, why not? Why not use some Chromebook hardware to do similar things here? Have you done that?
Oh yes, yeah, I've
Right.
got Linux running there, and I've got a bunch of the applications that I rely on in my Linux Mint. If the one thing I want to be able to do is actually just take Chrome off my Chromebook and put Linux Mint on,
Yeah.
but I don't believe I can do that. I think they've locked the bootloader thingy.
Right.
But that is an investigation that might happen in the next couple of weeks. I'll maybe spend a bit more time trying to do that.
Very interesting, though. The whole thing is just fascinating, and it's so refreshing to use a different front end to, when having been so for the last few decades using Windows for everything, and at the very outside using Chrome OS on a Chromebook, but this is just a completely new environment and so much stuff to learn, and it's like going back to the old days of computing, really, and starting again and saying, right, how does that work and how does that work, and as you say, going to the forums and asking questions of other enthusiasts about it. Really interesting stuff.
And then there's other levels you can take it to whenever you decide that you're done with the training wheels. I always feel that Linux Mint is Linux with training wheels. As you can move to Fedora next, and then after that you can move to Arch Linux, which is the hardcore.
Okay.
That's going down to the gym and bench pressing ridiculous amounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So, right, okay. Well, that's awesome, and I'll look forward to our Linux special in the coming weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, the bargain basement where things are cheap, and we'll start off with this one, which is actually it's mine. Yes, that's right. Thermal Right, which is a type of CPU fan. It's a 120 millimeter white ARGB case cooler. Which has a 4-pin silent computer fan, have reduced their price, I believe. I'm not actually seeing what it's come down from, but it's now £10.90 for a pack of 3 fans, which is actually kind of nice. They're good-looking RGB fans that could work quite nicely in your machine if you happen to be doing a build. They've come down from £19.90p, which is their standard.
Depends how noisy they are.
Well, they should be dead quiet. In fact, they even go as far to say they are silent computer fans.
That little B-Link box is really noisy. The Geekon one is nowhere near as bad, but yeah. Okay.
I'm going to dare to suggest this. Have you tried changing the thermal paste?
I don't know how to do that, so I'm still at learning stages, stuff like that.
Well, you've had it for a while, so perhaps that could be an option.
Okay. I'll talk to you about that off air.
No, don't. Ian Barton's coming on. You've talked to Ian Barton.
But anyway, my first one is we were talking about TCL earlier, and we were also talking about TVs that were not mainstream that get gaming from Microsoft on them. And this TCL 32-inch Amazon Fire TV, you see, that's another outlier in this system, is that there's these Amazon Fire TVs, which you can take or leave. They are very capable, but they kind of encourage you to live in the Amazon system. And they've done an Amazon deal with TCL, obviously, and they're currently knocking out this 32-inch TV for 138 quid from 180, and various other savings as well. But to me, I don't use the Amazon kind of system enough to make use of this, but I'm sure that someone else might, and many people do, and so reduced.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous amount of money for a 32-inch smart TV. My one concern, and I'll recommend a YouTube channel called Free Tech. He's a northern lad who I can't remember his name, but Let's Crack On is a good instigator of where you are if you're watching one of his videos. But he does an awful lot about Amazon Fire TVs and sounds warning bells as well whenever there's something fishy going on with fishy TV, Fire TV. Sorry.
Right.
Next up is Soundcore. This is a little Soundcore A30i. From Anchor, obviously. It's a little set of noise-cancelling earbuds with a lipstick-shaped stylized design. It's a little case that a lady can carry in their handbag if they need to. That has 2 little earbuds inside of them, and it's been reduced in price from 50 quid down to 19.99, which is crackerjack. Absolutely brilliant. It does come in 3 different colours. There's black, white and pink.
Yay!
Ted, you
pink.
like your pinks, don't you? No, but you do. You tend to.
That particular pink is very, very girly, though, isn't it? Very, very, very kind of Japanese teeny. But it's a nice idea, isn't it? And you're right, it will appeal to mostly, not exclusively, but mostly to females, I guess, because it looks just like a lipstick. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's got clear sound, 24 hours worth of playback, IP54 rated, and smart noise cancelling.
Very
so
good,
I imagine it's got 3 modes where you can switch between them.
Lovely.
Nice.
That looks nice. Yeah, for 20, all that for 20 quid. Very good. Okay, my next one is the Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3. We were talking about laptops earlier and the Acer Swift, and this had a similar feel to that about it, really. It's been reduced to 359 quid. It's an i5 chipset, 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage. And yeah, it looked like a particularly interesting little laptop. It's available in a nice blue colour, which they call Abyss Blue. And that is so much nicer and more refreshing than the normal black or silver coloured laptops. It's nice having stuff that's a different colour, even if it's not pink.
Yeah.
And
there's a good chance that there might actually be sound that comes out of those grills at the side.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. And I the other thing is I also like the 14-inch. That Acer Swift I had a 14-inch screen. It's a really nice kind of medium-sized screen. It's not tiny like a 12-inch Chromebook or Pixelbook, but it's not a 16-inch kind of normal size. It's somewhere in between. And the 14-inch size I think is really nice. Windows 11 Home. It looks like it's nice, and as you say, it's got speaker grills upward facing, nice looking trackpad, and they're offering me £72 times 5 months.
Yeah, very nice. 14-inch screen, 512, 4.4 DDR5 RAM. Nice. That's a good price. Yeah. Very good price. Top notch. Next up are 2 from Honor here, and I got quite excited about these whenever I saw them because I'm starting to realise that there are big benefits to this first one. The Honor Pad X8A, which is an 11-inch Wi-Fi tablet with merely 64 gigabytes of storage, but it's got an 8,300 milliamp hour battery, quad speakers, and a nice metal design. 99 quid for this is really quite good. It's only got 4 gigabytes of RAM, but I was thinking about actually picking one of these up because last week I did bang on about Home Assistant, and this could become a dedicated Home Assistant tablet that could be in the house, attached to the wall. You can lift it out of the wall and control your smart home as you please. For 99 quid, that's actually really tempting.
If you pay 20 quid more, you can get 128 gigabyte as well. Which would make
But you don't even need that much if it's dedicated to that.
Yeah. For that purpose, yeah.
Yeah. I like this. Yeah. But there's a larger version as well, the Honor Pad 9, which is a 12.1-inch Wi-Fi tablet with 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. It's got a 120 hertz 2.5K eye protection display with 8 speakers and runs Android 13 out of the box, but I imagine there's probably going to be an update to Android 14, if not now. and it's £219.99. I think that's a nice price for this level of hardware.
That's really good, isn't it? They're challenging Samsung up there with these 12-inch tablets, and they're doing really well on pricing there because that's very, very attractive, with quite a bit of storage and more RAM. And I think if it was me, I mean, you've got a specific purpose for the first one, but if it was me buying a tablet, I would be after this one. 219, and for another £20 you can get the version with a keyboard as well, the dedicated keyboard.
Nice, that's a good addition. Yeah. What's the last one here, Ted?
It's a Xiaomi Poco 4G C65 granny phone. I put granny phone. That was me, not them, because that's what it is really. It's got a Helio G85 chipset. It's 6.7-inch screen, 720p on the screen, and it looks like we spoke about this a while back actually.
We did, yeah.
On the show, because we were amazed at what a good deal it was, even when it came out at much more money than this price of £77.90, which is 169. It was RRP when it came out, but also it looks like you might still get that free watch that came with it. I'm not 100% sure if that is still the case, but and the text doesn't say so, but some sort of Xiaomi watch coming with it as well. But £77.90, even though it's it's got a big screen, even though it's not going to meet the demands of people that are nerds and geeks. If you've got a relative or a child or an older relative or something who just want their phone to be their phone and communication device, that's an absolute bargain.
Yeah, it's hard to sniff at that in any way possible. Even if it turns out there was some anthrax in the box, I think it would still be a good deal.
Yes, indeed.
Wow, yeah, and it does show a picture of that smartwatch, so I would be expecting it to be in the box too.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? But it's not got a strap coming out the other side. I wonder if it's a smart tag or something. There's just no information about that, and I think that when we spoke about this on the show before, we said the same thing. What does that picture actually mean? I don't know.
I wonder if any of the reviews of the people down the bottom have suggested. There's a picture of everything out of the box. It comes with a power adapter. I suppose that's unique, but no actual smart watch is mentioned there, so it might just be a poor stock shot.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, well that about brings us to the end, and we will be back at the same time next week for another enthralling and exciting adventure through the world of technology with Ted Salmon and Gareth Miles. You can get in touch with us on email at gareth@techaddicts.uk, and you can find us on Twitter too at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I also have my Mastodon, and I'm on Blue Sky, fairly easy to find. I have my GarethMiles.com if you're looking for any nonsense that I happen to put into print. Ted, what about you?
Nonsense that I put into print is on my blog usually, or in the MeWe group, links in the show notes, or if you get lost, it's all at tedsalmon.com. Audio podcast galore. We've got a few coming in the next few days, so watch out on that one. And if you want to buy me a coffee, then that will be very warmly received, particularly if it's a warm coffee. paypal.me/Ted Salmon. Thanks very much.
Rip roaring. Right, well, we'll catch you all next week. Take care now.
Bye.